number one, we want all of our students to be involved with a collegiate ministry at a local church. We don't pretend that our ministry in any way is the local church. The way that I think that it's different is that pretty much, if we want to, 7 days a week, we can have interaction with them and where you take a whole bunch of kids from a different campus and bring them into a small group or a collegiate ministry, we, in our leadership training and in equipping students on Thursday nights in our small groups, can focus on what are the challenges here at TCU? And how do you reach your students here at TCU to then take them to the local church with you? How do you bring people in that don't look like yourself so that when you go to the local church and not everybody looks like you, that you can still live in community there? So it's a challenge. If you've been in ministry, you know that. Trying to join a collegiate ministry on campus with a collegiate ministry in town. We're meeting with, and we've met with so many churches across the board that support us as a BSM, as well as those who don't, but have our major players around the TCU campus. And we are actually starting next month. We have 3 pastors at least, collegiate pastors, myself, and Janelle, the associate that works with us, are going to start meeting once a month just to get together, pray over Fort Worth, pray over TCU, and encourage one another in ministry, and stop the fighting of trying to get your student to come to my place kind of a thing. So if we can build that culture and be a catalyst for that, I know that's a tall order and some aren't going to come, and that's fine, but I think God will bless that in those churches and in our ministry as we start to partner more together. If we could build a bigger movement on campus and those students can reach more students on campus, guess where they're going to go on Sunday? To the local church that these guys are at. So if we can be a catalyst for salvation and for a gospel movement, and that's what we've told our students. Our mission statement at TCU is that the Horned Frog BSM is a student-led movement. Not a student-led organization, it's not a student-led ministry. We have different ministries, but this is to be a movement across our campus. And if that can happen, and I believe it can because the Lord's in it, that if that can happen, we're going to see numbers in our ministry grow. We're going to see numbers in the BSM rise, and as we do, we're going to see more kids starting to get planted into local churches who are going to become members, engaged members of the local church, that wherever they go in the world is going to be, they're going to be hopefully sold out members of that local church and leaders. If you've driven around campus much or around Fort Worth, you probably see billboards. For about the last 10 years, I think, the slogan for TCU is lead on. You'll start to see that now that I've said it maybe. But lead on is, you'll see it all around TCU, but some billboards, you're going to see that slogan. And when we were interviewing for this job, somebody said, and it's stuck with me, is that the students at TCU are going to lead somewhere. Why not teach them to lead in the kingdom? And so you have the students that you want to be leaders coming to TCU. Now can we invest in them in the gospel and teach them to lead, not just in the business world, not just in nursing or theater or music or whatever their major may be, or athletics, but how do we get them to start a movement and begin to lead in the kingdom of God? Anybody else? Questions? Yeah, not very many. So we only have 27 coming on our Thursday night Bible study. Our goal right now, so that's, if you're a math kind of person, I am. So I am not I don't know if anybody remembers this old slogan, especially in Baptist churches, a nickels and nose kind of guy. Like we're counting nickels and noses, right? How many people and how much money? So I'm not that kind of a person necessarily, but a number I think is a good place to start with a goal. And so we're reaching less than 0.5% of campus right now. And I've told our students our goal is 1%. At some point in the room where we have 27, we should have 110 students meeting on Thursday nights. And if all of those 27, I told them this just last Thursday, I said, if each one of you will bring 2 people, we won't reach our goal, but we'll be pretty close. And if each one of you were to just bring 3 people, we'll exceed that next week. Like that's how obtainable the goal is. And I don't know how many of you went to college or have been on a college campus. Like, you have 3 friends. Like, there is no other time in your life where you are in a situation where you are surrounded by the same people who are your age, day in and day out, doing things together, taking classes together, in your major together, where you're interacting with them, that you can't say, hey, want to go to Bible study with me on Thursday night? 3 people per person. That's all it takes. And then if we do that, that same kind of multiplication of your water with my water, even if we can double, right? And then those double, and then those double, we can start to really see a movement on campus. And so we're trying to get our students, at least our lead team, to think that way. In the first meeting we had, Janelle, we divide them up into an equip group. This makes sense. An engage group and an evangelize group. The evangelize group focuses like thinking missionally on campus, and Janelle leads that group. And the first night that we were together as a lead team, they came up with all of these people groups on our campus and our goal is how do we strategize to reach into each of those? And so the first time we met with them, though, to set the stage for that, we just asked them, how do you think of missions? Because I think a lot of times we think of missions as a trip or an event or of a program at your church. And I told them, until we make missions our culture, that will never happen. And so our goal with our students is to make missions a culture within the BSM where it just comes natural to share the gospel with their peers. Like, engaging campus is easy. Walk across campus, and you're going to run into somebody. I have never walked across that campus and seen nobody. You're going to run into somebody. And chances are, as a student, you're going to run into somebody you know. So just talk to them. Tell them what you do on Thursday nights. Invite them to one of our fun events. Like, we like to have a good time. We don't just study the Bible. We like to have fun, too. I mean, studying the Bible is fun. I don't want to say it that way. What a terrible thing for a missionary to say. That's horrible. But invite them to things where we're just having fun. Like, we're not going to dig into Scripture that night. We're playing volleyball. We're playing pickleball. We're going miniature golfing. I don't know, whatever it is. Like, come have fun, and then let's just show them that Jesus can be fun. Any other questions? Yes? Yes, we do. And some of that is good, and some of that is not. Without saying too much, man, I'm trying to choose my words wisely. We have a really strong advocate in the staff person who is the sponsor for our student organization, and there are others like that on campus. In some key places, there are not opposition, but drastically different theological belief in some key places. I'll just leave it at that on camera. Talk more later, but yeah, it's not the easiest place always. In fact, they actually limit the number of times that a church in the community can come on campus, and they have to come through a student organization like ours. Like, if a Baptist church wants to come on and meet with students, they have to come through our organization in order to do that. Right, well, and part of the reason for it has been that they've had some other individuals that are not Christian come on campus, and especially after COVID. They had a cult on campus who was trying to really aggressively engage students, and got some calls from parents who are paying $60,000 a year for their kids to go to school. And they said, we will take our kids out of school unless you get a handle on that. So they got a handle on it. But it has limited then churches coming on. So there's a reason for it, and there's a process to have churches come and help us and do things with us. It just has to be done. So, yep. Yeah. The rules are not there to limit the gospel. The rules are there to protect the students. And so how do we work within the framework that they've given us to spread the gospel as well? And that kind of goes back to your question, is how can we help the local church? We can be a voice for the local church when they can't be on campus right now. So those relationships for us are going to be huge. And I would just ask you to pray for those relationships. Again, I don't think I'll get into it tonight, but there is one of those that is a key relationship for us to really breaking down a ton of walls. And we met with him 3 weeks ago. Great conversation. And then I don't know if you're familiar with this term, but he's ghosted me ever since. And this morning I got a text from him saying, hey, sorry, I missed your text. This is what we can do. This is what I'd like to do. And he's going to be a part of that group that meets together. So Lord, will you break down those walls and allow us to really come together as a community to reach collegiate kids in Fort Worth, but specifically. Yeah, the obstacles, I think, with every person are different. There are some obstacles that are university related. There are obstacles that are individual related. I don't know if it's an obstacle, but there's so many kids that just come from affluent families, and sometimes intelligence and money can be an obstacle. Like if I feel like I've got everything figured out and all I need is money, then why do I need anything that you have, right? So we deal with a lot of very affluent kids and a lot of very, very, very intelligent kids. In fact, the one I'm discipling that's talking about Christ, the other day I just came to a point with him and I said, I wonder if it takes more effort to explain these things away than just have faith and believe. And that's where some of them are. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think Tim and Christy are probably familiar with how to handle college students, but college students always like to eat, and college students always like to eat home-cooked meals. And so we're in a process right now of possibly relocating to a building across the street that will give us where our students have greater access to us and a better space to gather. And if we're able to do that, even on lead team nights, we have meetings at 7, and if we were to offer them a dinner at 6 and connect a church with that, like our goal is to connect them with churches. And a conversation we're actually going to have this week is how do you select a church? Because anybody sheep farmer in here or been around sheep? You've been to the rodeo when they do mutton busting? Like, what do they do to the sheep to get them to go to the right place in mutton busting? Have you seen that? Go to the rodeo and watch. So if kids mutton busting and they fall off the sheep, they put a sheep out in the middle, and that sheep will run out to that one. And then when the next one does it, that sheep will run to that one. College kids are just sheep. They really are. Like if one goes to a church, they're like, okay, I'll go to that church, right? But they don't discern why they're going to that church. What is the preaching like? And a lot of times it's like fancy lights and loud music that sheep is like, oh, okay, I'll go to that church, right? But is that the place where they're getting the best doctrinal teaching? We spent a month visiting some of the key churches in the area, and some of our students are going to the wrong church. I'll just tell you that. Like, we need them to go to other places where they're going to get maybe a little bit better teaching in some doctrine. And those aren't churches that are, like, far off. I'm just saying, like, I don't know that they're getting the best teaching at those, what we would consider maybe a Baptist or non-denomination evangelical church. There are other places that are better teaching, but they're drawn to something else. So I kind of forget what your question was, and maybe I veered off of that, but yeah, food is a great way. Food is a great way. College students, honest, like a big need that we have right now, taking students down to Beach Reach on a mission trip over spring break. They're going to go down, and as I drive around a van till 3 o'clock in the morning picking up drunk people, they're going to share the gospel with them in the back of the van. And there's money that needs to go towards that. No, we don't need restraints. We do have the ability to kick them out of the van, but yeah, I need a lot of prayers that week. We'll put that out. The problem is we came into the game late, and somebody reserved some of the most expensive rooms that we could pack 6 people in, but we don't have the number going, and so we're down to those rooms. And so the students are paying $600 each to go down there for the week. That covers all of their transportation, food, all of that kind of stuff. But we're probably around $1,500 short as a BSM where we need to be, and we're not financially stable. So we are doing the process of trying to raise money towards that kind of. So that's a huge need we have coming up. But those kinds of things happen. Our students go, there's a whole missions arm of the collegiate ministries with Texas Baptist called Go Now. We have 8 students, I think, going on missions somewhere this summer. They do those over the winter as well as the summer, and so we're encouraging our students to do that. Our hope, how do you marry these ministries together? Our hope is within the next 12 to 18 months, we have a group of TCU students that are going with us in May or December to the Philippines to do a VBS or pour into the kids or teach in our classes or something like that. So we're going to connect these two at some point. We just got to figure out when and how to do it. I've told you a long time ago you can go. Come on. Come on. It takes a little bit to get there, but come on. You can go with us anytime. No, we are independent of the university. We receive no funding at all from the university. Any funding that we receive to operate as a BSM doesn't even come from the cooperative program of Southern Baptist. Every dollar that we have for ministry is raised. Yeah. Baptist Student Ministry. In some places it's called Baptist Student Union, Baptist College Ministry, and then in some states they've gone to a name Christian Challenge. So all of those, kind of the same entity. It's really the collegiate arm of Southern Baptist, and here in Texas, it's through the Texas Baptist or the Baptist General Committee. So basically, even they've hired, the way we see it, is they've hired prime ministries to operate the one at TCU. They don't. My salary is supplemented. That's what allowed me to step away from any part-time stuff and Janelle to step away from any part-time stuff she was doing. But the rest of my salary and benefits is all 100% raised, and all of Janelle's is raised. Yeah, so we still, I would say we are 80 to 90% on funds that we raise personally. The other 10 to 20% is supplemented with some money from either that or the Tarrant Baptist Association, is a huge supporter of my position as well as the BSM at TCU and Texas Wesleyan. Yep. I do not. There was a time, we don't have time for it tonight, but there was the idea to create Fort Worth BSM with ministries at Texas Wesleyan, TCU, the Tarrant, Fort Worth, and TCC, and then with UTA and Texas A&M coming to Fort Worth. And I think we'll probably get back to that. But I think right now for us, the better strategy is to step back from that and build those individual ministries and then bring them together as healthy ministries before we venture back into that structure. So there is another director. It's actually he and his wife, and they have a campus missionary at Texas Wesleyan. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you. That's it. It amazes me that a campus in Texas has so few believers. I mean, and I know that if you really look at the demographics of TCU, a ton of their students come from California. And I mean, it's just the way it is. How much? Second largest state of after Texas is. And that used to be a very, if you don't know California, my family's from California, that used to be a very, very conservative, evangelical state. It's not anymore. So we as believers are in an uphill battle, and we have to be strong, and we have to be wise, we have to be vigilant. So thank you so much for coming to. I know somebody who's here who wasn't here yesterday because he was stuck at another church, and then his car kind of had some problems, and then his wife didn't want to come with him because she's mad. I'm just kidding. David, I know. I'm just kidding. No. David is here. David Hayes, his wife and his daughter, they're not here tonight. David had some car problems yesterday, and they were not able to leave. And they got back here into town this morning, right? And so his wife and daughter, they are tired. As you can imagine, being stuck in a car is not pleasant. and then having to wait a long time because you have car problems. That's fine. But the great thing for Dave, and I'll say this, is a church member at the church he was at said, "I'll fix your car," and missed church so he could fix his car. And so Dave's blessed. But go back. David is going to be sharing with us on Wednesday night. David, Kim, and their daughter Shiloh. She'll be here tomorrow night. And but tonight was just a lot for a baby, and we just miss her because she's better than David, and she just is. And so, but David's got his table set back there. Go say hi to David tonight. Love on him. You're going to love to hear his testimony and how God's moved and how God's worked and what they're getting to do in Real for Christ Ministries over in Africa and how God has blessed in the last 2 weeks. And so tomorrow night, love to have you all back because we're going to have some really cool things. Scott and Christy Hudgens going to be sharing with us what God's doing in Latin America, the Middle East, some different things. We're not going to video tomorrow night just because some things will be shared, but we want you to be here. And we're also going to have, he's going to bring with him his assistant, Lance, who in July, we are going to head down to Colombia. And if you're interested in going, back on the table in the lobby is a sign sheet for interest form because we're going to meet. They're going to explain some things. You're going to be able to ask some questions. But we want you to go on mission with us and get out of your comfort zone. I love that quote. If what God asks you to do always seems logical and makes sense to you, it's probably not God listening to you. Or you're probably not, it's probably not God that you're listening to. And it's so amazing because that's so true. So thank you so much for being here. Let me pray and you'll be dismissed. God, we thank you for what you've done. Father, thank you that there are people out there making a difference in evangelical churches over in the Philippines, in these rural villages that are sharing the gospel, that it started because somebody had a vision. Thank you that there's somebody on the TCU campus sharing Christ because there's students that might not ever hear it any other time, but while they're in college, they might be open to learning. God, we just pray that you would bless Sean and Janelle in the Philippines over at TCU, that you would help them to reach, teach, evangelize, do everything that they can to make disciples for you. Lord, I pray that you'll take us away from here safely, bring us back safely again tomorrow. In your name we pray. Amen.